So this particular one should have been the stream, obviously, from the 5th of July. Tradingview seem to have only kept 2 minutes again of my stream. So I'm lucky that I guess I kind of get to the point. It's short and sweet. The idea is, 5, 10 minutes and just straight to the point. So in essence, this particular technique or this particular method as to how I'm drawing some of these parallel channels, why I find them relevant. If we take a nice swing low and we basically go zero, and I'm just, forget the naming convention, it could be one, it could be a, doesn't matter. I think at the end of the day, I'm looking at a zero, a one, a two, and then obviously on three, four, five. But the general idea is from zero to two, and then if I extend the parallel channel up to one from two, then basically you end up with this as a nice little channel. Now we can clearly see we've actually had a nice bit of support, we've actually had a nice bit of resistance, a nice bit of support. There's a bit of a cluster sitting in there, which is again something else for another video. We've actually got another bit of resistance sitting there. Now the one thing for me is we've actually spent quite a lot of time sitting in the lower half of this, so it wouldn't be a surprise at all to actually breach this channel, some kind of retest, and then obviously a continuation on down. This is still on the smaller time frame, but there's a little bit of logic in terms of some intraday moves. I'd have to look obviously in terms of the stochastic as to where exactly we are, but that wouldn't surprise me at all. However, on the flip side, I know from yesterday's calls and yesterday move, I think we're actually going to get some of the smaller time frames given a bit of a pullback, and therefore I don't think we're quite going to see the high end or the center line of this channel, but I would like to see a little pull before the move out test and go again. So that for me, shorter term, is what I'd be looking at. But obviously, I'm not really a shorter term trader anymore. I look at the longer term big pictures, more of an investor rather than a trader these days. So ultimately, that's the first step. Now, the second thing is on a much bigger time frame. We're talking weekly. There was something that I really wanted to show, which I think was in the later half of the Trading View stream earlier. So what I'll do is I'll stick this on, which is the Weis wave. And the one thing that becomes pretty obvious for me with this is that we've actually got some clear defined logic. Okay, so if we look at phase one, what I'll do is I'll stick this to green, I'll stick that to green. We've obviously got a phase one and we've got a phase three. Okay, so they for me are the biggest moves, obviously on the move up. All right, then we have the smaller moves, and I'll stick these in as red. So we've got a little red move there, and we've actually got another one which is still ongoing as we speak. So the logic for me is pretty clear. I can see a 1, I can see a 2, 3 is always going to be the biggest, and therefore we still sat in a 4. That fits the logic, obviously, up to the high being the 3 point, and therefore I think the buyer's climax that we called back in March is obviously valid from a weekly perspective rather than the monthly at the moment. So I am thinking we still looking at obviously another push up. Potentially, I'd like to see a shorter 5 as a whole, and then obviously back down for a much bigger monthly correction move altogether. Now, this is only part of it. The one thing that I really wanted to emphasize and to get across is more to do with the timing on this. So if we assume, let's go back from, we'll just keep this off the chart. Saying we go back kind of early on to where we are, even if I move this to the start of the wave, we're actually looking at 180 days rounded down, right? So that's 6 months. Now, bear in mind, Bitcoin is also, 24/7. So let's look at the next wave. And the next wave, we've actually got 180 days again. So what we're saying is wave one, 6 months, wave two, 6 months. Now, coming into wave three, let's go from the top there and we go to the buyer's climax. Let's even take it to the all-time high because it was obviously hyped up. So we've now got 370. Let's round that down to 12 months. So we've actually got 2 years from the start of the cycle to the current high, right? And that's something for me is very interesting. One, because it's a long time. And like I said, we are still in this move as how I feel. Now, if we look at this from the high and come across to the current period, okay, we're only sat at 84 days, right? Now, if you've ever seen example of Elliott wave, or you've seen various example of Elliott waves, the one thing that you will find is that you'll actually have a very impulsive 0 to 1 move, an aggressive two back, and there's lots of logic as to why the two is usually aggressive, and more often than not, it's an ABC rather than something more complex. It's just to do with the nature of the accumulation that the big boys ultimately use. So you then have a three, and this is where everybody starts to jump on the bandwagon. Retailer buy in the top. Obviously, the wholesale guys are the guys selling to the retail. But what you tend to find is that four becomes quite complex, but four also becomes very elongated. And regardless of the depth, you actually find it's more like this in terms of a pattern before giving you another impulsive five move. Now, again, lots of logic as to why this occurs over and over and over again. Although the standard convention is, drawing it as a trend line and then obviously getting this, with inside a certain channel, you will often find that four will breach that channel. And like I said, it just becomes kind of longer and longer and longer. So, you know, although there's an argument for it just to go straight back up, I've seen too many posts in TradingView recently around this being the spring. For me, that's just not springy enough to be a spring. There's not enough volume there supporting that, especially on the daily time frame, which is the kind of key one really you want to be looking for. And therefore, I think the guys who are now jumping on the Wyckoff bandwagon are actually seeing, something that doesn't really exist just yet. I think we're still in the distribution phase from the main one that I was calling back in March. We've obviously come down to the 30K level exactly as we planned. Um, and obviously we're looking now to go again. But I think the go again, we're actually sideways rather than up or down right now. So we've obviously identified some of the key levels. We've discussed this over and over again in Discord, and it's something that we'll be giving more first-hand insight into the subscribers before obviously launching more streams on TradingView with the what next type of mentality. So like I said, only a short, quick one today. I've had to record it again for YouTube. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll be streaming again tomorrow. Have a good evening.